So I thought I'd make another video. I wanted to talk about something that I think is very important. You know, there's not enough evidence of the circumstances, and it's what bothers me so much. But there may be a chance that you may be able to get more information. But the day that that guy held us hostage and raped my brother, and we let him into our house for Christmas. And there's actually a Christmas videotape that we have of him, of the guy that did that. And I want to say he just attended one Christmas. I don't think he attended two or even a Thanksgiving. He might have been to a Thanksgiving, but I'd seen this guy either at my uncle's or another relative's house before. I've already drawn pictures and talked about this, but I was getting these images of the lady that was with him, and it was a lady that had like dirty blonde hair. I very strongly believe that this was a transgender. Her body shape, her body size, and her body shape was the same as Miss Nevis at Good Elementary. Same exact almost body shape and haircut almost. Which is a PE teacher that was at Good Elementary many, many years ago that showed up to Annie Hophand's funeral. And I remember Daniel Box telling me this. He saw Miss Nevis. And, but anyway, she had nothing to do with it, at least regards to this. It was just, that's the body shape and everything. But I feel so strongly, I remember, because I talked about, like, I don't know how it goes with transgenders and gay men in their relationships, where the transgender will be just really crazy and he'll just dominate the man and tell him what to do. But I don't know how that is, or at least in that, specifically in that circumstance. But I remember distinctly, and I said this, they were sleeping on the couch, on the floor together, and it was in the morning, and I remember she pointed over toward Frankie's room. And I just said that before the hostage situation happened, she was walking out the door, and she stood right by the door, and I was standing looking right at her. And I see, there's no way to prove this, and I don't want to get this mixed up where I didn't see this, but I want to say that I remember her looking at him while he was on the floor, you know, sitting up, and just like no TV was on or anything. And she left early, and she told him, and goes like this, pointing to go get Frankie. And so this is why I think it's so important for me to say this, because it doesn't change the fact that this person did this action, but it's the idea that this person is the one that was triggering the situation. Because I remember him thinking, like, he looked over at him and he goes, like he was thinking about it, and he was going like this, but there's no way for me to prove if she was standing right by the door and she said, like, pointed over him, like, go get you some. And we never heard from this lady again. To my understanding, she had, I don't know, I remember her bringing in a baby. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know if this individual, because I do remember they had a baby. They came in our house before, and it was a baby. And the thing that's world-boggling to me is I'm trying to remember, this person could have been two different people. They just looked exactly the same. But there used to be a guy, my uncle Chito, who unfortunately I was told that he was murdered by the cartel in Mexico and some sort of drug affiliation. They kidnapped him and they killed him. I don't know what happened to him. He just disappeared, and I don't know what the truth is behind it. That's what my mother's twin said and my uncle said. But she had, when I was about 5 years old, I gave away a three-wheeler. I remember being a little kid, and I went to a Summit Apartment, not Summit Apartments, Estrada, where Edward Rangel used to live. Edward Rangel used to live right across the street. There's an apartments right next to his where we used to hang out. Those apartments was where my Chito used to live. And I remember there was this little boy, and I want to say he was like a white kid. I want to say I think he was a white kid, and they'd come over to our house before, and they were very poor. And I remember I was given as a kid. I had it probably for a year or so. My father bought it. My dad was the one that bought all the toys, and it was a 3-wheeler Tyco RC, like the little. You know how they had the little remote battery. They used to have these giant batteries in them. They're old school, and little kids could sit them and drive them around. Well, it was a 3-wheeler. It wasn't. It was like a 4x4, like off road, but it was a 3-wheeler. But it was only made out of plastic, and it was a battery operated. And I remember we put it on the back of the truck, and I gave it away. My mother was like, "Oh, look at us," because that kid didn't have any toys. And I gave the kid some toy. Said, "You can go ahead and keep it if you want it." And my mother was sort of encouraging me to do this. And one of the things that's real boggling to me is I remember the white blonde-haired woman that was with Chito, kind of heavy-set, and they were in a short-term relationship. But I don't know if that was the same person that was with this guy that was in the house with this guy, because I had never seen Chito with this person. They could have been two very different. There's no way to tell what the circumstances. But I highly doubt that this woman. I don't think the guy's alive anymore. Very unlikely, and at least my opinion. And I think that the transgender, was involved. Chito, because if Chito was with a transgender, then all he would have been was with transgenders. He wouldn't have been with anything else. But anyway, the lady that was in there, if you find who this person is, you could probably get the answers who this person was. If they were a transgender, bingo. But I couldn't explain this to more enough, that this person was targeting our family, and they did it together as a team. But he's the one that finished off the crime. And I think it's important for me to talk about, because you could be able to verify if this person has some sort of a still mental stability and memory. You would be able to get the answers out of this person and say that, yeah, I told him to go and rape Frankie, because I'm like a 60 to 50% chance her. Like, I know I'm 100% like on this. When I looked at her, she was like giving secret signals to him. Like she was the rapist was on the left, she was on the right, and they were both sitting on the floor with the blankets on the ground in the living room. And they were sort of whispering to each other. And I walked over, and this is when I saw her just doing this, like signaling, like. And then they just shuddered because they saw me walk right there, and they just kind of like went back to normal. But when she got up before she left, and I think it was the next day, she stood by the doorway and she goes, go after him. So I think it's important for me to talk about this, because she was the one that gave the signal to do that, as well as he mentioned he may have done what he did. I don't know the story behind this, but you could find out who he was, who this lady was, because my uncle knew who he was. And I thought it was important for me to talk about that, because you'd be able to verify that. But, I was 5 years old. This is 35 years ago. Those couples were like 27. They'd have to be at least 60 years old now. They would have to be at least 60 years old. It's very likely that the person may not even be alive. But I think it's important for me to talk about, because it happened to Frankie, and how it's related to the transgenders and gays that were raping Frankie and going after my mother because of Michael Jackson. Because once you did the first rape and some other rape happened, oh, guess what? They just knew that maybe Michael Jackson wasn't in the picture. They just knew this guy got away with it, or this is maybe a entirely fresh new bait to victimize the situation. So that's something I wanted to talk about. You'd be able to get that information if you found out who that person was. 35 years ago, it's almost an impossible fetch to be able to say this. I keep shooting in my head, my brain, but I thought I'd say this because I think it's important. Even though this is worthless as shit now, because what are you going to do when you find out? Oh, it just adds more validity to the situation, yeah? Still doesn't change who got the money and who had a better life and who got away with what and who did who did what and who did what and who did what, and then you can't verify it, and then you just forgot. Anyway, so that's the story. So I also want to talk about something about when people found out that I had had sex with a black girl when I was 16 years old. It did not go well with a lot of other people that found out. And I'm not talking because it was Richard's ex-girlfriend. It was because she was black. And I remember getting it from white blonde hair girls before. I remember being around white girls before and they're like, why did you do that? Ew. So when I grew up in high school, from the very beginning, every friend that was not black I've ever known, anytime we knew in high school, when a girl fucked a black guy, none of the white guys would ever touch her. I talked about this with Jack Murphy. It was the same thing, when I was at his house. The same thing whenever he was in his school. Anytime that a woman, everybody knows this, once a white woman fucks a black guy, they never get touched by any other race. Once they know, nobody wants to touch them or fuck them again. Same thing with Mexican girls. Same thing. It's just, it runs like that. So once they did this to me, I got the shit from other girls that I remember that knew about that. And there wasn't too many people that knew about it, but there were a number that did. And I think that's important for me to talk about because it's the way that Kenneth and Sarah that were involved with head crack at the radio station and all this is to poison you and victimize you. Mark you and then take off. My mother, I don't even know really what to say about my mother because they have, it's whatever, it's a complete toy playground, playground, whatever they want to do with my mother. I'm talking to my mother's twin and she just wants to talk about putting me in a casket and sign life insurance policy papers. It's just, but I thought I would talk about that because I got it from those people. And it is a complete playground. I can tell by talking to Marco, he has his gays just running up and it's just gays. That's all it is. They're running their own gay empire of who's the boss of the gays, who cleans up the gays and the gays. That's all this is. Because every person that it's impossible, and it's not necessarily that I don't blame them, it's impossible. You're going to have every faggot that's going to get around Marco and his twin, every faggot that's going around Julian, oh, you're gay like this. You know the gay secrets, how gays function in this world differently, and you do function differently in this world. And it doesn't change the fact you want the profitable game because guess who's stupid? Guess who has the money? And guess who wants to play the Jesus Christ bullshit? Or guess who wants to play, who's the hero? What needs to be done? Bullshit. Oh, my mom can't remember. No, that one over there, my mother's actually straight. I don't know about her fucking twins, whether they're lesbians, but I highly doubt they don't have any of their own kids. They don't. They don't have any of their own kids. And all you have to do, if they're lesbians, I don't, because one of the things that caught me, that made me think of that as well, is because I spoke to Lindsay Wessinger. And I'm almost positive she was twins, but I'm still not sure on it. But she said something to me, and she said, I don't. And she said it in a way that, it sounded like her twin sister that said, I don't have sex with men, but you don't want to say you're a lesbian. Now, she wasn't talking about herself. That's what my opinion is. I don't really think, but she was in reference to talking about my mother, saying her twin, she just doesn't. You don't want to say lesbian or faggot. Once it's lesbian and faggot, all bets are off. It doesn't matter what the fuck you say. You function for them. That you function for what you want to steal and take. You function for your faggots. That's it. And you want to see how you can manipulate. Because if there is somebody that wants to give me something, then you want to steal that. And you want to just give me to work for you to do it again and dispose me because I got disposed of repeatedly. Ain't nothing I can do about it. I can tell you this, I remember 100% on this. Frankie, when I was in the car with him, my dad died. It was like the day after my dad died or some shit. And I was in the car with Frankie and my mother, and we were driving, I think we were driving to go get my last paycheck stuff at Employee Solutions in Farmers Branch over by R.L. Turner on Josie Lane. And we were driving on our way back, and I was sitting behind Frankie. Frankie was in the passenger. Frankie went like this. He goes, "Yeah, you know, mom's twins. I mean triplets. Yeah, you know that, right?" And he said it very lightly. And I saw my mother's twin, which I didn't know was my mother's twin. She goes like this and tells him to shut up, not say anything. And Frankie said, he goes, and I go, "What, triplets?" He goes, "Yeah, there's some people, you know." And it was almost, he mumbled across the words, and he said an organization got involved with our family and found them. So someone intervened. Someone with a lot of money, organization, Extreme Dream Maker, someone intervened. And he said this in the car, but he quieted out very quickly, not to say any more information. And I think it's important for me to talk about, because this is when we kept on driving, and then I got into a nasty argument with my mom's twin. And she kept on saying, "Aquí te arrastro y te tiro como la pinche basura, que cabrón que te mueres, sabes que tan duro que yo, I don't give a goddamn fuck, goddamn motherfucker." You're just talking like that. And my mother never talked like that to me. There wasn't one time my mother ever fucking talked like that. Not like that, Lynn, fucking like, I want you fucking dead in a casket, I'm so fucking nasty and raw, I can take whatever I want. That's exactly, and I remember Frankie froze, and he looked at, and he kind of smirked like, what the fuck's wrong with you? And so I think it's important for me to talk about, because Kenneth and Sarah know about this. Sarah and Kenneth at the radio station know. They know that because of Frankie being raped that number of times, at least this guy, what was going to be happening, that is nothing more than a bomb. Timing bomb waiting to go off and just put a mess everywhere. And then, because they don't want to be blamed and they don't want to be linked to it, because they didn't do a goddamn thing, and they can then later grab their resources when you're milking the time, and not look dishonorable to the population. Because once the population finds out, like Frankie was getting raped, that happened to Miguel, everyone attacked Miguel. And I wouldn't say it wasn't Miguel or Diana, but it was everyone that went after our family as well. That's why a lot of the rapes continue to happen, because once this guy got away with it, and then this one got away with it, now send this one over here. So I think it's important for me to talk about this, because I remember being in the car 100% with Frankie, and he said he was very light spoken about it. He only said a few words, and I just remember him saying, "Yeah, you know, mom's a twin, right? I mean, triplets." I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah," and my mom goes, and I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, there's you don't know, there's and then that's where my mom's twin goes, "Hey," and she goes, "Hey," and she goes like that, and then he looked and he goes, doesn't say anything. So I think it's important for me to say this. It is too late now, and whoever it was that got involved, they're just using that as poison. And you know, they got their faggots lined up, Marco and the faggots. That's all it is. Because if Julian's twin was with a transgender mother, guess what? Faggots again and transgenders again just did more saving again. That's all it fucking was. This is horrific for my mother. For my biological mother, it's fucking horrific. The magnitude, what they're doing and what they did to her is completely false of what these other people think and allegations they're making. Oh, we just fixed everything. We know what happened. No, you didn't know a goddamn thing. It is horrific that you're having this situation. I mean, you're fucking my dad who was gay. You're having your kid raped. You're having to sell Frankie off. You're having every person attack you because everyone feels sorry for Miguel and Diana. Everyone feels sorry for them. But Michael Jackson. The political power for Barack Obama. For the White House. It's just we don't know what's going on. So, everyone, you had artists that were showing up at Good Elementary that knew about this. The group of Titanic, the people that built that, the people that played the musicians at the bottom basement of the Titanic, That's exactly the band that showed up to. And I talked about this. The guy from NASA, who was an astronaut, he showed up. They knew. You had every artist there that was showing up as an adult. And I used to play the trumpet. My band teacher knew about that as well. All the teachers knew about this. All the Hope transgenders and gays did. I highly doubt any of the straights did. Highly doubt. Because they are so secretive and keep everything blocked off with that information because they want to have their fellow gay member and their fellow transgender get away with whatever they want from Michael Jackson. Or just sympathy for your fellow members or your club members. That's the story. So I thought that whatever. I'm not the professional psychologist. You do with what you want with it. Information.